Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, let's address the Lewis Jackson controversy. So, there's been a bit of a whirlwind going on right now with Lewis, as he did a live the other day, and basically he was looking at some content creators, XRP content creators to be specific, videos, and he was basically debunking some of their content. And so he got a lot of backlash from the XRP community, like his own community on YouTube. And also there was an interview that he'd done with, I want to say Paul Barron. I think it was Paul Barron, but it's Paul something. And he got a lot of heat in that interview as well. And so I want to, just talk about this and just kind of go through my thoughts with this. So full transparency here, I've covered Lewis's content a lot. I've done quite a few reactions to some of his videos, and one of which he actually seen and dropped a comment on my video, and he actually supported the video because I was being respectful in my counter arguments to what Lewis had put out. And so because I'd done it respectfully, he appreciated that, and I also appreciated him supporting my content. So I will acknowledge that happened, but again, I'm going to be completely objective here. So, okay, let's get into this then. So, Lewis, he's been someone who's been in the XRP community for a few years now, and he got huge when XRP, I'd say around 2021 roughly, was when he started to blow up. He was doing XRP content, and a lot of it was based around, XRP getting to like $10,000, potentially being backed by gold, that kind of stuff. And so, I've done a few things where I've covered certain stuff that he's, addressed, like certain topics that he's covered, that kind of thing. And I've not always agreed with Lewis, but I've always been respectful because that's who I am as a person. For me, I only give disrespect if I get disrespect back. I'm not someone who will just, come out and say, oh, this person's an idiot. That's just not my style. And, so yeah, we've had some scenarios in my content where I've respectfully disagreed with some of his thoughts. And so, we've got to a point now where he's doing a live stream that he did the other day, and a lot of the things that he's previously been championing, so for example XRP hitting $10,000 and that kind of thing, he's basically moved away from that. He's covering people's content like Digital Perspectives, Jake Claver, I believe. He was going through a few content creators, and he was talking about like Black Swan Capitalist, etc., and saying how they always do the same formulaic content. And he's saying that basically it's kind of like fishing for views, right? And yeah, he got a lot of backlash from this. I can't dispute that. Like, a lot of people were saying that he's now a flip-flopper because he was once saying XRP is going to reach $10,000. He's now saying it won't. They're basically saying he's like turning his back on the people who kind of made him, so to speak. That kind of thing. So I want to get into this and give you my thoughts. So, okay. The thing for me with this is, and Lewis said this in his own, his own video as well, and I agree. This is something I'd said before, because I addressed something about something that Lewis had said, I think it was last year, and I kind of said, like, I can see his stance is shifting a bit, and it was obvious to me that I could tell, like, the way he was doing his content wasn't the same way he was doing it when he very first was coming out with his channel, when it was, getting big. And for me, I'll say this. What I think people do need to understand is, as you get new information, your thoughts can change, right? Like, for me, for example, when I very first got told about XRP, I was being told all of the $10,000 stuff. I was being given all of the hype and all that kind of stuff. So I just took it in just because I had no reason to believe it was a lie. Like, I was just getting told all these things, and I was like, oh, okay, this sounds cool. So I got in because I missed out on Bitcoin. So I was like, I'm not going to miss my opportunity now. Sounds like XRP is my second chance. And I just took in the information I was being told. Now, I was being given like a few dates where they were saying this XRP to $10,000 was going to occur. And I think once the first date came and it didn't happen, I just straight away grew skeptical. I was like, okay. And then from there, I saw more dates being told, and they didn't reach these, these numbers that they was told that it was going to happen. So at that point, I just took it with a pinch of salt, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do my own research on XRP now, because this is getting a bit weird. Like, we're getting told all these dates and none of them are coming true. So let me do my own research. once I started to do my own research, I learned more about XRP and how it works, and I just thought, okay, that $10,000 stuff ain't gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. And so I then decided eventually to make my own YouTube channel, because all I was seeing with YouTube videos was how it was going to go to $10,000. And I just thought, I'm going to play my part in trying to combat that and give people an alternative, an alternative idea of what's realistic and not realistic. And so for me, when I look at Lewis, I know Lewis's story, and I'm not going to say too much because I'm not here to like talk his business or anything like that. But I know there was a Discord that Lewis used to be in, because I was in the same Discord, and this was of a YouTuber who would say all of the XRP $10,000 stuff, and Lewis was in there. And eventually Lewis went on to create his own content, and so I think there was a point in time where Lewis genuinely believed that XRP was going to go to $10,000. I think that was the case, and I just think what's happened now is he's been in the space long enough. He's gone to, for example, the Ripple party when they did the victory party off the back of the SEC lawsuit. He's been around people who he can talk to, who are, very well educated in the blockchain space. And I think he's just understood that $10,000 stuff just isn't realistic. I think he's just got to a point where he's researched enough to know this ain't going to happen. And so I can understand some of the backlash in the sense of, people being angry because he was saying this all that time and he's built up this huge, business off of the back of it. I get that, because that's what people were saying. I do understand that. But what people have got to understand here is just being objective about it, right? And I think this is the problem, because obviously Lewis got big off of the back of thinking XRP was going to go to $10,000. And that's what a lot of his, content was. So if you go back to the earlier days when his channel was really growing, that was the kind of stuff he was pushing, right? And so a lot of these, community members who have stuck by him and watched all his content, I can understand them, feeling like he's turning their back on them. But if you can just be objective about it, like, don't be so defensive in the sense of that he's turning his back on you. Just look at it that he's found new information now and he's changed his stance. And so for me, what I will say for this with Lewis is I actually respect the honesty, because for me, and I thought this, and Lewis did say it in his video as well, and I thought it straight away, Lewis could just continue pushing the same content if he wanted to. Like, he's got a big channel, so his channel will get views. Like, he's big enough. I don't know if you know how YouTube works, but if you've got a big following, like, your channel generally will do pretty well, right, for the most part. And so he could have just thought, I'm just going to keep the gravy train going, even though I don't really believe in that anymore, the $10,000 stuff. I'll just still keep pushing content out like this. And he could have done that. But he's going against the grain, which is what I've done from the very beginning of my channel. And so he actually said himself, he's like, look, I've got a family, right? Like, I'm putting things on the line when I do this, because I could lose followers. I could lose people who subscribe to my channel. I could lose people who pay me a monthly subscription fee for my content and stuff, and people who want to leave my courses. It's like, I could really lose everything pushing the narrative that I'm pushing now. I'm risking it all so I can give you guys the truth. And I'll be honest with you, I do think that's commendable. I do, because at the end of the day, this is something that Lewis said. He said, when you look at, for example, content creators like Jake Claver, Black Swan Capitalist, Digital Perspective, Digital Asset Investor, all these guys, he said, they just keep putting out the same formulaic content, right? And they just keep pushing the XRP $10,000 narrative. And he's saying, why do you think they do that? Why do you think they've still been doing that for so many years? And he's absolutely right. And I'm really glad someone of his stature, like of his magnitude of a channel, is saying that. Because it's something that I've been saying from the beginning of my channel. And because I've not come out at the beginning, doing like the $10,000 stuff, this is why my channel has suffered. Well, because I've been having debates with commenters as well. That's not helped, because they've then, basically got my channel shadow banned because they can't handle a debate. But that's another part of it. But yeah, like, to me, because I've been pushing this from the beginning and I've been fighting against it, this ain't the kind of content that gets views. Like, people don't want to hear, oh, XRP is not going to hit $10,000. Like, that's not the kind of content that people see on their YouTube and think, oh, let me click that, right? Like, that's not what's going to really get you the views. And this is why I've said to you before, when you cover these content creators, they do get very sensitive. You know, like, I've had a back and forth with Black Swan Capitalist, and I was just honest about a debate, and that turned into a whole thing. And I was willing to have a debate with Black Swan Capitalist. And the reason I was willing to do that is because I do think when it comes down to it, like, and you really do challenge some of the content that they put out and you give them the facts, I feel like a lot of them will fold. I'll just be honest with you. I do believe that. And that's why a lot of them don't like to have these debates. And so I'm glad to see Lewis is kind of addressing this, because it is true. What he's saying is absolutely true. And it's why I've been saying to you guys a lot of these content creators who are out here, these big content creators, they're just pushing it because it makes money. I really do believe that some of these content creators who are pushing this XRP, to $10,000 stuff, I really don't think they believe that anymore. Now, maybe there was a point when they did, but I don't think they do still believe that. But they'll still push it because it makes money, right? Like, you're feeding the people false hope. And that's what they want. People want that false hope. And they will clutch at it. I've seen it, like, the amount of people who've attacked me on my channel just for trying to help people, trying to say, hey, this isn't realistic and this is why. We can agree to disagree. You haven't got to like what I'm saying and you haven't got to agree with it. But, when they come in attacking you and, like, Lewis has got it now. And I do feel for him because I know how this goes. Like, it's very frustrating. It is frustrating when all you're doing is trying to tell the truth and people just completely attack you for it. Now, with Lewis, I can kind of understand why his is a bit worse, just because of the fact that, one, he's got a bigger channel, and two, obviously he once was someone who was pushing the 10k XRP stuff, right? But nonetheless, I think you have to just understand that, like, people can change over time. Like, I do believe that Lewis is genuine here, that he used to believe this stuff and he's now just changed his opinion. He's had new information, he's grown, and now he's decided, I don't think this stuff is possible. And so now he's saying that. And he really doesn't have to do that. He could just say, yeah, and to be honest with you, I'm sure at this point he might be thinking this would have been a lot easier if I did just keep doing the XRP to $10,000 stuff. Like, you got to understand, to do the right thing is hard. Me keep doing these videos where I say, XRP is not going to go to $10,000, and then you get people in the comments who call you an idiot, and then you debate them, show them that they're wrong, and then they come and basically keep flagging your channel so you get shadow banned. It's hard, right? Like, my channel has completely suffered. Like, if I'd have left the channel like at the trajectory it was going before I got into my first little thing of getting shadow banned, I think I'd be at roughly 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers by now. But because of, all that stuff that I've been doing in terms of having debates with commenters and stuff to try and show them that they're wrong. And don't get me wrong, if they say a little disrespectful comment, I'll say a little disrespectful comment back. I'll be honest, I'm human. But that's what's messed me up. That's what's messed this channel up. And I don't think it's going to go very far anymore now because of that. I think my channel's being literally stifled. I've checked the analytics and I can see it. So that's just what I have to, that's the burden I have to bear now at this point. But it's all in the name of trying to help people. It's all been to try and give people the truth. And this is unfortunately what I've had to endure. If I'd have just come out saying, yeah, XRP $10,000 and, every bank's going to use it and the flip is going to be switched, and, I'd have just been getting my thousands and thousands of views with no issues and I'd be raking in money. But I just can't do that. And I think Lewis is the same. I think Lewis is at a point now where he doesn't want to do that no more. Like, and I'm not saying that he was doing it at the beginning deceptively, because I don't know. The one thing I will say is, like, one comment that he did make when he was covering someone's video. He said, they said something about XRP going to, like, like, it was kind of like a clickbait thing that he said. And Lewis said, I've played that game. And the only thing I'll say about that is I did just wonder, like, when he said I've played that game, did he mean I've played that game in terms of, just having to try and get that catchy headline to get a click? Or did he mean, just making stuff up? Now, I think, to be honest with you, it is more him just trying to get like a catchy headline to attract people's attention, because that's how YouTube works. And this is another reason why my channel, I don't attract as much viewership as well, because I don't try and treat YouTube like a business, right? Like, I just put out content. I don't try and really overdo the thumbnails. I'm not really trying to do like crazy thumbnails. I'm not trying to make the most clickbait headline. And even with the content, sometimes I'll do stuff that's really in-depth and technical because I just think that's interesting. And I think that's stuff that's going to add value to XRP or HBAR. And so sometimes people don't want to hear that. They just want to hear like, oh, you're going to be mega rich. It's all coming soon. And you guys are going to be millionaires. And you know what I mean? I just don't find that appealing to me to do. Like, I just don't think that would be content I enjoy doing all the time. So I just go into stuff what might not be so interesting, but it's just good content because it's actually informative and it's the truth, you know. And a lot of times I'll be covering, you know, content where they're talking about the 10K stuff, $10,000 XRP stuff, and I'll be saying, well, it's not going to happen. And so, yeah, without wanting to like ramble on for too much longer, I just think when it's all said and done, this just shows you how, you know, when these people have got this stuff in their head, how angry they can turn when you're not saying what they want to hear, you know. And as I say, I do understand that people can feel a bit betrayed in the sense of, hey, you was telling us this whole time that this is what was going to happen and now you've changed your tune. I understand that. But if you did genuinely believe at one point that something was going to happen and now your stance has changed, that's just one of those things, right? Like, information can change over time. It's like you could be invested in a crypto and then you could find out later on that, you know, there's like a bug in the code and that could make you think, well, that could be an exploit. I don't want to be in this network anymore. So like, things can change over time. That can change your opinion. And I think that's fair. Like, I do think that's fair. And the one thing I will say, as I said earlier, is I think we have to give Lewis a bit of respect in the sense of, he's out here now just telling the truth of what he believes. And I think that's respectable. And I think people need to understand that a bit more. Like, he's actually just out here giving you his honest opinion. He's not just saying, hey, you know what, I'm just going to keep pushing this $10,000 stuff because I know it works, I know it gets views, and I know it's going to bring me in money. No, he's being honest with his thoughts. And that shows you that he is someone who's got a conscience, because he really doesn't have to. At this point, he's big enough where he could just keep rolling that content out. And that's what a lot of big content creators do. That is what they do. They just keep regurgitating the same stuff, making up crazy things that are not true or not accurate. It's lazy and it's inaccurate. And they do it because they keep getting money. And I'm really glad that Lewis did call that out, because it's true. It's absolutely true. And I've been saying it for a long time. And I'm glad someone who's bigger has said it, because it needed to be said. It needed to be addressed, in all honesty. So I say fair play to Lewis. You know, I don't know if you'll see this video. If you do, you know, I know it's hard. I'll just say I know it's difficult, but you're on the right path, man. You're on the right path. You're doing what's right. You're saying what you feel is the right thing, and I think that's respectable. And unfortunately, when you are doing the right thing, you do get chastised for it, because people want the fantasy. You know, this is kind of like when you're in the Matrix and you're trying to get people out of the Matrix. People will fight against you. They want to be in the Matrix, right? Like, they don't want to break free. So it is difficult, and it does end up making you be the one who gets all of the, you know, the slack for it. Because all the other big content creators, they don't get the slack, because they're the ones pushing the hype, right? So they're the ones getting all the praise. And they're the ones who, you know, people think are geniuses, because they're saying what people want to hear. But you're doing the right thing. And that's the thing that I think God counts. So congrats to Lewis. I think it's a big thing to do. And yeah, that's just my thoughts on this overall. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.